In a world, in a world, in a world. Okay, what up? Yo, story time. Story time. All right, so I went to get a haircut and I told this lady, okay, yo, uh, I just need like the sides and the back of my hair cut. I don't really need anything off the top because the top grows slower and I'm letting it grow out some. So don't even worry about it. Don't even touch the top. Don't even worry about it. And I said, at the most, like baby 1/4 an inch, the dead ends or whatever. But I really just want the back and the sides. And she's like, okay, cool, no problem. So she cuts the back, cuts the sides. She has me turned around. She sprays my hair with water. She brushes it down. Then she spins me towards her. Super quick spin, pulls the scissors up and puts the scissors like all the way up to like my hairline and just cuts all my hair off. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, yo, I said don't cut a lot off the top. And she's like, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you did. So anyway, obviously not a huge deal, like it'll grow back, but uh I've been working on this theory for a while, okay? So I think you can't trust most women to cut your hair. You know the story of like Samson, where like, you know, Delilah just like constantly is trying to cut his hair because his strength is in his hair, right? And she keeps trying to trick him, and eventually she's able to get him and cut all of his hair, and then they're able to take him over, right? Um, I think there's like this Delilah syndrome in women that cut your hair. Um, unless they're like pretty. So the girl that normally cuts my hair she's pretty. So I think she's got no like internal issues going on. Like she wants to help me like look good. She's but this girl, I mean, this girl is just she needs to go on a diet. And I feel like she's just like, you know what, I'm gonna show this guy. Anyway, there's my story, but I think that women, they start power tripping when you're sitting there like helpless in the chair and they're like, oh, I have power over him. I'm going to emasculate him and cut off all his hair. I think it's the Samson. So, you got the Jezebel spirit. We got the Delilah spirit. Women trying to cut your hair. Take this self-haircut pill. No, it's not that serious, but like, yo, it was like the easiest haircut ever. It's just like the sides, back, I'm out. Just like you just do this a little bit on the ends. And this girl started going crazy. If I didn't stop it, I don't even know if I'd have any hair. Austin didn't get a haircut. Don't be fooled, people. This man's a clone. Yeah. I'm kind of salty though, because like I was like letting my hair grow out. And then she started laughing. I was not happy with this lady. Okay, anyway. Pretty crazy stuff going on. I was sick, so I couldn't stream. I was like throwing up sick. Don't let them get you next time. I swear, it's like you can't trust these women cutting hair, man. Anti-FE stylist, gotcha. Yo, I mean, she asked what I did, and I told her, but I didn't talk about FE, specifically. And she asked where I stream, and I'm like YouTube and Kick. YouTube censors me sometimes. She's like, I'm not cutting my own hair. How do you I'm supposed to take a mirror and then, like, line myself up in the back? Okay, anyway. I was just telling you guys the quick story. I think there's some, like, temptation of this, like, demon that takes women over when they're cutting your hair, and they wanna cut all your hair off. That's all I'm saying. They just wanna cut all your hair off. They feel like I don't they feel like they have power. And, I'm gonna be real, man. You gotta be careful. When women have power, you gotta be careful, you know? Not all women, just like I don't gotta say not all Jews all the time, obviously, right? But I'm just saying, I'm gonna say that Europe and Canada, they have lots of women in power, okay? And then they have not the best situation, right? Because they're more prone to like an egalitarian, communitarian, um, I guess you could say, empathetic perspective. We didn't come for your hair there. What's it? Thanks, man. Thank you. Well, um, okay, I was gonna move on, but I guess we should talk more about my hair. And dude, by the way, I'm bringing up my hair because I think it looks kind of silly, but like I just think that's a real thing. I think like there you go. Word to the wise there. Just be careful. Anyway, so we got a pretty crazy few things going on, and I didn't add this to the title, right? But I just saw Trump talking about basically nuking Iran. We got people talking about um, aliens and like religious leaders coming out and getting out ahead of it, talking about aliens. A meeting of religious leaders prepping them for how they're going to integrate aliens and talk to their congregations about aliens. That's a real thing. And I mean, if you read the scriptures, it's pretty obvious to know what said entities would actually be, right? You'd have like the Watchers, you'd have the fallen ones, you'd have their offspring. Anyway, go to a reputable barbershop. Okay, okay, yeah, we'll move on. Look, the thing is, it wasn't even like a real deal haircut. I just needed someone to like pop a 3 on the sides and the back real quick and then line it up and kind of blend it in towards the top, and I was gonna be out of there. I didn't need a full haircut. That's why I'm like, okay, I can be in and out of here. And this lady was like on crack or something. I don't know what she was doing. So it's all good. Anyway, um, so this is just 2026 is just where we live now. All right. We got Trump's building a ballroom. So that's one of the top stories here. It's got bulletproof glass. It's really pretty. And Trump likes the way that he's designing it. Very important topic. And aliens are coming. And we got interdimensional evil demonic aliens that are apparently on the agenda. And we got a bunch of religious leaders coming out being prepped to talk to their congregations about accepting aliens and how they're going to integrate that into their understanding of the Bible and their other religious texts. That's not sus. And then we have your boy Trump talking about nuking Iran and wiping it off the map. Just another Thursday, no big deal. And then we got Plandemic 2.0. And probably important for people to go ahead and jump out in front of it and start talking about it before you can't, right? I mean, well, I don't know how that'll go. I mean, if last year or like last time we had a pandemic, bro, they were all over you. But I mean, I remember as soon as they started talking about lockdowns, I did a live stream called Coronavirus, and we were just exposing everything. We had already found the documents. We had already found Operation Lockstep, right? We had already found the little like drill they went through where they just perfectly predicted the coronavirus pandemic. So we knew it was a scam, right? And it was a plan from the beginning. And then you had a couple weeks where you could talk. So if no one's heard, there's obviously like this story about this thing, the Hantavirus, and there's like a cruise ship. This is the story. There's a cruise ship, and it's like this super long, cruise, and it goes from Argentina over to Antarctica, and it goes through all these different places. And some people got off and did a bird watching tour, I think in Argentina. We'll like hear the official story in a second. This is where they were believing they contracted this disease. Apparently, this is some type of, okay, viruses are fake and gay, but we'll cover that in a second, right? But supposedly this is a known virus that comes from like the feces of rats and mice. And supposedly this got kicked up in the air. They inhaled it. So it's a new type of strain of it that's airborne. And then they contracted the illness, got back on the boat, and there's 129 people on there, and then multiple people are dying. And then they're clearly setting this up though. They got the cruise ship going all around the world, right? So all around through Europe. And then they got people getting off the cruise ship, then getting on a plane, and then finding out that they're sick, going to the hospital and dying. A couple other people being hospitalized. So now they're like, oh, who got in contact with them on the plane? But then people are saying, no, we know about this virus, and it's not easily transmitted human to human. But then they're starting to see this other narrative that like, oh, this is a different type that is possibly, right? Blah blah blah. And you guys, dude, this is like, it's like PTSD, dude. If you remember the stuff from COVID, how could you forget? It was just constant propaganda and pseudoscience, and having to keep up with all the stories and go through it, and it was just constantly moving the goalposts, and every couple of days it was something new. It was just nonstop BS, right? It was just ridiculous. But they have like the perfect storyline here, right? Because you got the cruise ship going all over the place. You got the people already taking off, getting in contact with other people before they knew about it. So then they were spreading it. They're saying it's got a 40 to 50% fatality rate. And dude, I'm just cautioning people from like just repeating these talking points as though they're facts, right? I mean, that's what they want you to do. You got like the International Vaccine Organization or whatever it's called, predicting that hantavirus will be the next pandemic. And we're gonna cover a lot of this. But this is the crazy part, right? You got the World Cup coming up. All these people are going to be like in the United States from all over Europe. So they've set the stage perfect. Like, just leak this story, and it's super sus. Like when we look into it, it's the whole story is super sus, and we're going to look into it. So you won't have to go around trying to find out what's going on. Well, I'll show you what's going on. And it's not added up, to say the least, right? You got like one person making videos on there. They're in quarantine. Pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Now, what's super interesting is, that little insert that, and obviously go follow on Kick, because if for some reason YouTube wants to censor this stream, I don't think they censor this topic anymore, but who knows? But kick.com/witsit. If something happens here, we will be on Kick. And if you're on a PC, open up the stream and Kick anyway. Help me out. I need to get as many viewers as possible there, and we will be finishing the stream on Kick exclusively and try and say what's up in the Kick chat, which helps me out. I'm just trying to get verified there. But anyway, so you remember Pfizer fought in court to prevent the release of their insert. So if you guys remember, they were passing the vaccine around, and the little, safety and efficacy insert that's in all these all vaccines was blank. Eventually it starts to come out, right? But they were fighting in court to keep it from all these internal documents, supposable clinical studies, safety studies, efficacy studies, from coming out for 75 years. Why would Pfizer be fighting in court to prevent their documents from coming out for 75 years? Why are they having to be sued to release the documents anyway, right? And this is a rabbit hole. I don't want to talk a ton about COVID, because again, it's like it was like 2 years of my life where I traveled the United States, constantly talking about it, trying to wake people up on a literal microphone in like every major city. So it's kind of annoying, right? But I mean, if this is the world we live in, and we got to expose virology again, it is what it is. We should be pretty prepped for it. Now, a huge thing that a lot of people found out because of COVID is viruses are fake and gay. Yes, viruses are fake and gay. Viruses are complete pseudoscience. There's no evidence for it whatsoever. And we'll cover that in just a second. But my point is, for those who did get their hand on that nifty little insert and some of those internal documents, what do you know is one of the claimed side effects and ingredients, I believe it's a supposed side effect of the COVID vaccine, Hantavirus. Now, I have a stream back in the day. It's called Zombies, and I cover, a lot of stuff. How there's one part of the vaccines that is patented, and it's specifically the little carrier agents that they put inside the vaccines, and this was in all of the vaccines, right? They didn't have to reveal what those were, exactly what it was. And they had, protections afforded to them because of the emergency authorization. So it was fast tracked. So they were allowed to keep this intellectual property private, which was their argument, was like, okay, we're going to step up and help everyone and save them with our, new technology. We shouldn't have to reveal exactly what we use. And so they afforded them protection. Come to find out, all the vaccines use the same one from the same manufacturer in China, and you have the little nanoparticles. And I started falling down that rabbit hole. And again, if you watch my stream Zombies, I show you all the documents. I provide all the documents. There is an abundance of studies where people would take mRNA vaccines. They would have little nanoparticles injected into the host, and say they would be iron encapsulated nanoparticles. Whenever they came into contact with a certain frequency for a certain duration, so like 10-second, 27 megahertz, whatever it was, right? Little 10-second bursts of that frequency. What it did was interact with the iron encapsulated nanoparticle. It would swell it up, right? And it would become semi-permeable, and whatever was inside of it would then be released into the host. And they were doing this supposedly to look into like remote drug delivery, right? And it was successful, meaning that you could go get a shot, and then every week, Friday at 10 a.m., you got your next dose of that medicine remotely, right? Pretty crazy, because we now know there are iron encapsulated nanoparticles in all these people that took that jab, and you would never know what's inside of it. That admittedly, they didn't have to tell you what was inside of it. They didn't have to tell you the elemental composition of it. That's pretty wild, right? And of course, they shut everything down and they rolled out 5G. So you have like the proximity of these towers with a much higher spectrum of frequencies that they operate on everywhere. So that's a pretty crazy situation. So when you're talking about like the COVID vaccines having hantavirus in the internal documents, it's like, that's pretty weird. That's pretty weird. So anyway, we'll get into a lot more of this throughout the stream, and we'll see kind of what's going on. So what's interesting is you have the X-Files from like 20 years ago. And here is a clip. Again, it's like 20 years old. So let's see what we got going on here.
Are you familiar with the hantavirus at your mother?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the hantavirus. Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is? FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small viral outbreak in suburban Texas?
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the hantavirus.
Well, what was it? What was it?
When we were young men in the military, Father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare, a virus.
What killed men?
What killed them, I don't even write about. We have no context for what killed those men, or any appreciation of the scale at which it'll be unleashed in the future.
A plague?
Plague to end all plagues, Agent Mulder. The silent weapon for a quiet war. The systematic release of an indiscriminate organism for which the men who will bring it on still have no cure. They've been working on this for 50 years. While the rest of the world have been fighting gooks and commies, these men have been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon.
Wow. Negotiating with whom?
I think you know.
Maybe the aliens will have a vaccine for us. So we're going to go ahead and dispose of viruses real quick. This is my boy Alex Zek, legend. I was on his show, The Way Forward, his podcast. He's dope. Super cool guy. I resonate with him a lot. Matt, he's going to break this down for you right now. So if you think it's a crazy claim that virology is pseudoscience and viruses are fake and gay, well, we're going to dispel that in 1 minute.
ask virologists, as I have done, and other molecular biologists, like, why can't you isolate, purify, characterize, and sequence a virus directly from the fluids of a sick person, which is where you're claiming that it is? It's not like I'm claiming that. You're claiming that this obligate intracellular parasite consisting of a proteinaceous coat surrounding a core of genetic material is inside the fluids of a sick person, transmitted from that person to another person, causing illness. And why can't you prove that it's actually there, which is what you're saying? Here's what they typically say. The virus is too weak to isolate or purify directly from the fluids. Okay, let's think about that. You say it's too weak to isolate or purify directly from the fluids, but it's this highly pathogenic entity that lands on a surface, survives on a surface for upwards of 2 to 3 days, if not a week, makes it to a body, makes it to a cell, breaks into the cell, hijacks the cell's machinery, begins a replication process where it's excreted out of that person, does the same thing over again, but it's too weak to isolate or purify directly from the fluids. Not only does that not add up logically, but it's still fallacious because it's begging the question of the existence of the virus before actually establishing that they exist. And it's also a reification fallacy because it's assigning characteristics to something that is still fundamentally abstract and not concrete and proven in reality. Or they'll say there's not enough virus present to isolate or purify directly from the fluids. Okay, anyone can Google this. How many virus particles are in one sneeze or one cough? Some results will say 20 million. Some results will say 200 million, whatever. They're saying there's not enough of this highly pathogenic entity inside the fluids of a sick person to isolate or purify directly from the fluids. Doesn't make sense.
Okay, seems legit. All right, this guy's going to give you a little bit of tea here.
Pharmacist, let's talk about.
So, again, this was predicted as being the next pandemic. You just had Bill Gates talking about it on like The View, saying it's going to be way worse next time. But then he says like, oh yeah, we'll definitely have one within 25 years so that it's not too sketchy. If you start to look back, it has got COVID 2.0 written all over it. And you remember that was like just the most egregious propaganda ever. They were shameless. They didn't even care. Like, yeah, we're lying to you. Yeah, we're changing the story every couple of weeks. Whatever. What are you going to do about it? You're censored. And so we'll see. You know, supposedly I mean, you can't pull off a pandemic if you have free speech. I mean, it just gets exposed. It gets exposed. But anyway.
I'm an ex-pharmacist. Let's talk about the Hantavirus. Authorities are racing to find the origins of this deadly virus outbreak on a cruise ship, with passengers being allowed to return home to their native countries, the Hantavirus. And hundreds of vials of deadly viruses escaped from Australia, including the Hantavirus just a couple of years ago. If you believe in coincidences, this new novel virus is transmitted rodent to human, and while Australia is experiencing a fertilizer food crisis incoming, we are also experiencing a mouse plague in the regions that are highly populated and grow plenty of our food. The World Health Organization wrapped up their latest pandemic exercise just 2 days ago, Exercise Polaris. And it was 33 years, there's that number again, since the first cases of hantavirus outbreak in the Western world, in which there were 33 cases. The X-Files also did an episode on hantavirus in the mid-90s, and the current cruise ship outbreak was on a 33-day Atlantic cruise. Now, the only real evidence of any of this we have is a suspect scripted TikTok video from a guy named Jake, whose sister works for a firm specializing in emergency management and disaster recovery, helping governments in health emergencies and vaccines. The firm was founded in 2001, shortly before 9/11, and manages $10 million. Now, our friends over at Moderna have been working on an mRNA hantavirus vaccine for the past couple of years.
Okay, here's the important part, bro. All right, this is where you're going to get the real tea. Okay, the mRNA vaccine, it is gene editing, right? What they did was change the definition of gene therapy so they could push this through. Gene therapy was forbidden in the United States. You can fact check all this. You can go to t.me/widgetstreams. You can scroll up a little bit. You're going to see the stream that I did on the zombies, I called it, where we talked about Marburg. I saw someone just say that, I suppose a virus that basically gives you zombie type of tendencies or whatever. So we covered this possibility, saying like, I don't know what could be inside of the nanoparticles, but in theory, they could be triggered, right, to release whatever's inside of it. And yeah, viruses can be completely fake, but you can still have what people would refer to as contagion, some type of toxicity, toxins inside the little iron encapsulated nanoparticles that, when hit with certain electromagnetic signals, they become semi-permeable, right? So they begin to expand and they become semi-permeable. What's inside of them gets released into the body, right? And so based on the toxins, you can control, effectively what the typical symptoms would be, the reaction, right? Okay, so you have gene therapy being forbidden in the United States, and that is a crazy stream. I encourage you to check it out, and maybe we'll even cover some of it tonight. So they really wanted gene therapy to be approved, but they wouldn't allow it to be approved, right? For obvious reasons. The public wasn't going to accept the idea that you were going to manipulate people's DNA. Now, when you fall down the rabbit hole of what DNA really is, it's a whole nother rabbit hole. That's just a model that is reified, but we do seem to have like very particular sequential information, right? It just comes into what is that information? What even is information? And, when you get into the fact that this realm is very etheric, everything begins to change. You just shift outside of this materialistic reductionist view, and you understand there's a bunch of models, like the cult of bombarding particles everywhere, like the photon, the electron, the gluon, the buon, the pseudoscientific aton, all this stuff. But there are like tiny little, the phenomenon is real, right? It's just that the model isn't real. Okay, so anyway, so we're going to set that aside, and we're going to use DNA for intensive purposes because there does seem to be obviously individualized markers. That's how a paternity test works, right? So here's the thing. They want to manipulate that genetic sequence or code or sequential information. Again, we're going to just use DNA for intents and purposes. I've already given the disclaimer that it's a model. So the point is that whenever they did the emergency authorization, they were able to slide this in, and then they claimed it wasn't gene therapy. By all definitions, though, it was gene therapy, okay? That's when it gets crazy, because then once you open up the door of gene therapy, you get into a lot of crazy stuff. And I'll show you guys, but stuff like being able to integrate light sensitive chemical from a certain type of algae that then whenever they injected it into the mice, when they introduced certain frequencies of light to the mice, they could like literally control their brains, like literal mind control. They could like make them be super aggressive. They could turn off or turn on certain responses in the brain, and it would literally just make them start attacking each other like on cue because of the light, right? When you open up the gene therapy bottle, it's very, very crazy, to say the least, right? And so you're talking about iron encapsulated nanoparticles, or who cares exactly what the elemental composition? It doesn't matter what metal it is, right? Because there are many different types. That was the most popular one, iron encapsulated, but it doesn't have to be iron. It doesn't matter. You have nanoparticles inside of people that would react to certain frequencies that 5G operate on. They're also rolling 6G out. What a coincidence. They just are rolling 6G out right when they start to bring the pandemic back up. Probably a total coincidence. And if they were to trigger certain signals, they just emit certain signals, right? Which are, of course, they're invisible to the naked eye. I mean, just basically like a 10-second signal, right? Every minute, after the third 10-second signal, the nanoparticles would begin to release whatever was inside of them. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is not pseudoscience. That is not fiction. That is proven, already done successfully in a lab hundreds of times. It's a well-known thing. Okay. So when they were trying to talk about manipulating, the brain via gene therapy, they were trying to say, well, this could help us figure out like different debilitating, brain ailments and mental illnesses or whatever, right? But you weren't allowed to do it. You weren't allowed to do gene therapy. So what it looks like now that we're seeing, and this may manifest as nothing. This may just get everyone prepared. From my understanding, in Europe, they're already starting to say, like, start to roll the masks back out and prepare for locking down and stuff. Obviously, every state kind of showed their true color during the pandemic. Obviously, every country did as well, right? Europe was super cucked, and so was Australia. So it's like, it's just kind of crazy to watch. And look, let's just cover some more of what the story is that's going on right now, just so you guys will be informed, and then we'll get into maybe what's going on. So let this go break down kind of some of like the official story and what doesn't really add up about it.
Atlantic with the Hantavirus outbreak, and I cannot let it go. This is the MV Hondias, an expedition cruise ship owned and operated by Oceanwide Expeditions. And the route went from Argentina through Antarctica and the South Atlantic, with stops in South Georgia and Tristan da Cunha and St. Helena, all before heading towards Cape Verde. And I'm sorry, how is it that there are 147 people on board, with 3 people dead, 7 confirmed cases of the hantavirus, and the only video we've all seen from inside the ship is one guy named Jake crying in his cabin? No, I'm sorry. I'm not buying it, okay? Because you're talking to somebody who watches a lot of cruise ship drama on TikTok. In fact, it is one of my favorite TikTok subgenres that exists, okay? I watch it all the time. And if there's one thing that I've learned from those TikTokers, it is that if someone so much as catches a stomach flu on a Carnival cruise, there are 19 TikToks, 4 Facebook Lives, and some woman named Brenda locked in a closet filming herself saying, please help us, like it's the frickin' Blair Witch Project. So I decided to investigate. Not a full rabbit hole because I have other
Yeah, I agree it's a little much, but just bear with her.
investigations that require my attention right now. But what I did find
Yeah, I moved to Florida because of the COVIDs. But yeah, no, same.
was interesting. So first I went looking for the original Jake video because, like many of you, the first time I saw it was on the CBS TikTok account, which is a company owned by Larry Ellison now, but I digress. I couldn't find the original video anywhere, but luckily CBS did put in the tippy
Never wore a mask, never going to. Just say the doctor told me not to wear one, or exempt, smile and go about your day. At Bill's character. Yeah, you know, I think builds even more character is like, don't even lie. Just say, I'm not wearing a mask. I disprove the idea you have to wear a mask. I went around the entire United States in every major city. So the most liberal portion of each state. I was going through all kinds of government property. I was walking to the White House gift shop, said, nope, I'm not going to wear a mask. Thank you. But actually, since you're at it, you see what we're looking at. This is called the Declaration of Independence, and this is called the Bill of Rights. You know, I didn't have to wear a mask anywhere. And I even, when we got arrested and released because we were in the free speech zone when we were talking to people about COVID, and then I had to go to Yellowstone to the Wyoming Federal District Court for my case. I came in, they told me I had to wear a mask to come in. And I'm like, well, I'm not wearing a mask. So, you know, I actually don't have to wear one. And they said, well, you're going to get a failure to appear. I'm like, but I didn't fail to appear. I'm right here and you're not letting me in. And then the lady said, I've seen your YouTube channel. We know what you're about. And I'm like, well, that was super illegal. I don't think you know you're not supposed to do that. You just admitted you have some type of bias against me because of what my content's about. Like, no, I'm just not wearing a mask. They made me go sit in the truck, you know, and then sit on the phone to be in the court case, right? But then I filed a judicial complaint because the judge is supposed to keep all of his staff in line. And of course, orders from him down. They told me the judge is the one that made me go sit there. And guess what happened to that judge? 20-year magistrate judge stepped down and retired early and passed my case off to someone else. So all it actually takes is someone to have some cojones and stand up. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, yeah, go into your local Walmart. That's cool and all, but you know, I'm talking, you can go into federal district courts and say, I'm not wearing a mask. You can go into the White House gift shop. You can go everywhere. So we proved that in HD live stream for over a year straight. So if this time around you're quick to throw the mask on, you know, you got no excuse.
top corner of the video, Jake's username on TikTok, so I went to his page to see if I could find it there. No. So I started scrolling through Jake's page and I learned that he is a Boston travel content creator and he's been to like hundreds of countries, although none of his videos have gotten like a super high amount of views, but yet he's got 5.6 million. I just know that's weird. Anyways, he's got sponsorship links, he's got collaborations, he's got a Yahoo email, and if you go over to TikTok Shop, he's hawking a bunch of, you know, travel consumerism junk. And I'm scrolling through his posts and he's got this weird PR statement as one of them.
Not everyone's a super genius. Like you don't have to be a super genius to look up judicial canons and read them and see what they violated and then fill out a judicial complaint and take the wording of the judicial canon and place it in your complaint and then make it as applied to the situation, send it in certified mail and make sure they have to sign that they received it. They therefore then have to report that it was filed, whether they reject it, which they will, doesn't matter. That's a little bit of tea for you guys. And by the way, the same goes for the 3 different U.S. attorneys that I had withdraw and hand my case over between Rushmore and Yellowstone by filing bar grievances because they weren't adhering to the rules of professional conduct, which are the ethical guidelines of attorneys, right? So like people have way more power than they realize. I will say like being informed in terms of the way that the law works, and not to go on a huge tangent here, but the way that that works is obviously if you're in the bar, you're in the club, they're not going to really investigate their own. It has to be something egregious. So they're going to reject your bar grievance, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all, because this is the point. They have to report that. And this is what attorneys don't want you to know. They have to report that to their insurance. So all attorneys have to have insurance, obviously, because of like, malpractice, right? They could get sued for lots of money. So they have to have insurance, right? If you don't have insurance, you can't be an attorney, and no law firm is going to let you work there. So you file a bar grievance, they can reject it. They still have to report it to the insurance. Now, if you find out they didn't report it to the insurance, now they're in really big trouble. That's fraud. They're going to report it to the insurance. Okay. And they're just going to be like, oh, well, he'll go away because nothing's going to come of this. And most people are like, oh, this is totally unfair. They don't investigate their own, whatever. They don't want you to know how big of an impact that had. If you have 3 different bar grievances, like complaints reported to an insurance will drop an attorney. Once one insurance company drops an attorney, the other insurance companies do not want to insure them. If an attorney doesn't have insurance, they can't be an attorney anymore. So there goes their whole career. There goes like all this time practicing law, right? And all this time in law school, all this debt. And again, this is what they don't want you to know. And by the way, this isn't my opinion. I did it myself. You and Kay Podgy should get married. That's that girl on IG. I'm not rushing to get married, brother.
Mind you, he didn't even post the video that he sent to CBS on his own account, remember? So I don't know, it's weird. But then I hit this penguin video from the trip, and it's a stunning video with a high resolution camera. And I mean, look, the sky is insane. It's clearly very beautiful. But just keep in mind what this sky looks like, okay? Because it's gonna come back later. In fact, his photos and videos are so beautiful, it is kind of hard to believe that it's not AI. No, but Michael.Elizabeth08, I'm with you. So I went to Google and searched for the name of the ship, the MV Hondius, filtered the dates to be before the outbreak became public, and went to videos to see if I had missed anything, because this is the exact kind of trip where you would normally see people posting pictures of wildlife or videos of the sunset or rough seas with the yo-ho sound, cabin tours, meals, anything. The only videos are from Jake Rosemarian. This is weird. And then I read about one other passenger who was quoted in BBC and AP coverage named Kazem Hato, also known online as Ibn Hatuta. Sorry if I mispronounced that. This guy. And he sent over footage over WhatsApp to AP News and BBC, and he gave them quotes specifically saying, actually, morale is high. People are watching movies, reading, and drinking hot drinks. 3 people are dead. And then it gets even weirder because he's posting stuff like this on his story. You can pause to read it, but the second paragraph says, this whole situation has been blown out of proportion, partly because of one person panicking on the ship whose video has been circulating on the media. While his reaction is valid, it doesn't represent the situation on board. Everyone else, 148 out of 149, has been calm. The situation is under control, and we just wish those who are sick a speedy recovery. And his videos also look cinematic, except if you'll notice, his sky is blue. His video clips around a lot, but from every which angle, it's the same blue sky. You mean to tell me that both of these content creators were there during sunset and Jake's the only one that got a video with the beautiful pink orange sky? Fools. They think we're fools. I mean, come on. You expect us to believe that after the outbreak happens and people are locked in their rooms forced to quarantine, and the only 2 passengers from inside the ship we hear from are 2 travel influencers? Nope, absolutely not. As a dedicated consumer of cruise drama TikTok, I reject this whole premise. Look,
I mean, actually pretty valid points. This is the person you're talking about right here.
It is not an alien invasion. It is Judgment Part 2. So in Part 1, we discussed how I personally believe that the true deception is that they've shaped our perception, which is true occultic magic. Instead of having to do anything, they just have to mold our perception slightly so that when we look at something like this, which is a divine judgment, the cups being poured out, the glory cloud with the wheels spitting out the lights, we look at this and think either
So I actually have like a theory similar to this, right? Which is like they prep everyone for this whole idea of aliens. They're going to say there are good aliens and bad aliens, right? This is just a theory. So say there are good aliens and bad aliens, and then the good aliens are going to come to us real quick first and say, dude, the bad aliens are coming. Okay, so we're only revealing ourselves now because the bad aliens are coming. I'm letting you know they're on the way. They don't mess around. Like, we can't fight them on our own. The world needs to get together and be ready to fight off these bad aliens. And we're letting you guys know they're bad. All right. Just trust me, bro. The bad aliens are super bad. And so everyone needs to put their differences aside. Screw religion, screw geographical boundaries, screw all the differences. We got to come together. Screw politics, screw race. It's humanity. Like that George Bush speech, right? I often think how quickly humanity would put their differences aside if we had some existential threat, like aliens. So anyway, just imagine the good aliens come real quick. They're like, okay, sorry, we had to reveal ourselves now because the bad aliens are coming. Humanity needs to gather together and unite so that we can be prepared to fight the bad aliens that are on their way. And so then really what would then possibly be, right, is Satan gathering the armies of the world to fight the creator, the Messiah, when he returns, right? And so when he returns, I mean, if you've ever heard how they talk about, like, they actually describe angels, the angels are always like, yo, don't be afraid. We're talking about multiple wings. We're talking about lion heads. We're talking about like hybrid looking, glowing, giant beings, right? Like even seraphim, right, are just crazy beings, the way that they're described. So if you were to see those type of beings, yeah, okay, you would think that maybe they're aliens, right? Because you have like feathered serpent hybrid beings. Like angels are described as crazy looking beings. So then the Messiah comes with his army to take out the armies of the world that are gathered for Satan. After you're going to have like basically the whole one world order, the son of perdition, the man of lawlessness, that has his army, his one world order, unified in this desperate hope that somehow he can fight the creator. But then the great deception would be all the world thinking that those are the bad aliens, they have to fight them, and they're going to look like something maybe that we're like aliens, right? And then these good aliens can present themselves more human-like, right? So then they've seeded this into the public with the whole like Nords and the blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever. Not claiming that that's going to happen, just saying like that would be a pretty miraculous deception, right? I mean, that would be pretty crazy. So this isn't so off the wall for me. Okay, but we're going to stick on the virus first. So here you go. So this is the COVID vaccine adverse report. Better than better when don't want to let them. Ain't got a choice but to let them. Shut down the world and they claim we infected with something they never could find when they tested it. There it is. Interesting. Interesting indeed. That wasn't the one I thought that we were watching. And there's one where she breaks down like the basics here.
The last mini deep dive I'm doing on this Hantavirus cruise ship thing. Well, allegedly. We all know I have no self-control. So I went back and tried to strip this thing down to just source documents. So like not
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Check this out.
anybody's reporting on someone else's reporting, but like actual documented sources. And I found a lot of red flags in doing so. First red flag, the official departure date is completely inconsistent. I found from 2 government sources 2 different dates. How come the CDC of Africa says that it was on March 20th, 2026, that the ship departed Argentina?
And how have these organizations not lost all credibility? Why would anyone take them seriously at all at this point?
While the World Health Organization says that the vessel departed Argentina on April 1st, 2026.
That doesn't make sense. That makes no sense at all.
That's the CDC and the World Health Organization having different dates. Also pretty crazy that the ship departed from Argentina. Meanwhile, Argentina withdrew from the World Health Organization in March of 2026.
What? You know who else recently withdrew from the World Health Organization? the United States. If you're on a computer, we open up another tab, go to kick.com/whatsit. We are going to finish the stream over there exclusively.
What do you mean by April 11th? The first case of an adult male, he died on April 11th as his symptoms got worse, but the body of the passenger wasn't removed until the 24th of April. That means for, what, 13 days or something like that? He was on board? A body was on board? Also, I was on the MV Hondius's Wikipedia page, which is the ship that they're all on, and it says that the maiden voyage was in 2019, which is cool and all, except for the fact that when you go to the history of all the edits, it shows that the creation of this page was on May 5th, 2026. While the media has been making out this Jake guy to be some just random American who got caught up in a bad deal, I went to his Instagram. He's partnered with Oceanwide X. Like, that was...
Guys, I mean, bro. But I mean, I will say this, right? Like, this is a pretty crazy cruise in theory. If it was just a real cruise and people were going to it, I mean, you would have people like this on it.
Not disclosed.
Also, you would have people that are going to be able to capture really good pictures on it.
Any of these articles. He also, back in 2023, I believe it was, 171 weeks ago, he did a cruise with them already to South Georgia and had these pictures. So
that's sus, right?
For all I know, he could be reposting some of these pictures that were on his page from forever ago. Oh, guys, get this.
The aboard Oceanwide Expedition ship, the
This is from
the largest
2024
colonies in the world. After a 2-day journey at sea from the Falkland Islands, we arrived at South Georgia Island. Our first landing site here was going to be Salisbury Plain, which is home to a king penguin colony of about 60,000 breeding pairs. This is a place I always dreamed of visiting, and I was brought to tears on arrival.
He was there in 2023. What are you talking about? So for the record, my conclusion is not that this is fake or anything like that, okay? My conclusion is that the public timeline is messy and that official sources don't seem to agree, and that
Get over here, bro. I swear. Sorry. Okay, I think we're back. Dude, what is up with that? Can you guys confirm we're back? Confirm we're back. All right, nice.
And now it's here, and now
I'm gonna go double check on that real fast.
This is really the big enchilada, is the Hantavirus. I'm telling you. I told you, it's the UN grandstanding for their global.
All right, I just gotta say, right. To be fair, you know, there's like the whole like Alex Jones was right, but he also always says like stuff like this. He may be right. I will say this is super sus. It's super sus, right? So I called that whatever the next one would be, it would have a much higher mortality rate. The first one was basically just a trial run. And once everyone is actually injected, you could cause a higher mortality rate, which would be crazy. And I hope that that's not true at all, right? But who knows?
UN treaty, their global health treaty to take over your life. And now there's the UN. Israel detects first Hantavirus. So it's the first on a cruise ship, and now it's spreading in humans everywhere, and now it's in Singapore, and now it's here, and now it's there, and now it's in Argentina. Ah! Do they have their operatives on the ground doing false tests and reporting, or have they weaponized Hantavirus because it doesn't normally spread human to human? It has all the hallmarks, all the earmarks, all the telltale signs of a staged event. And now you've got the hype machine kicking in. The EU, wear your mask, don't go out, lockdowns are needed, stop airline travel. It's all beginning again. They want lockdowns, they want control, they want to crash the economy. And if the war won't do it, and if the Strait of Hormuz gets opened, what have I said? They'll use war, they'll use viruses, they'll use migrant flows, because it's in their own UN documents of how they're going to bring in world government to do that. But just like a light switch, when they start to turn off this Iran war, which we have a very good chance of happening now, and this is just amazing, 69 days in, they flipped the switch with the Hantavirus. And I've studied the cruise ship. I've studied what's happening in Singapore, the EU, Argentina, the propaganda bureaus, the operations, all of it. This is 100% COVID 2.0 hysteria. The Hantavirus, if you believe the reports of how it spreads human to human so easily and how it's killing people so quickly, appears to be weaponized, appears to be gain of function, because we've studied the Hantavirus.
That is BS, dude. Viruses don't exist. Okay? They don't exist. Viruses do not exist. Viruses are pseudoscience. They're fake and gay. Okay? And what people will do is like, well, what about infectious? Dude, if you have toxins and your body's getting rid of toxins and you're detoxifying around other people that are then absorbing certain toxins, you can in fact get the same type of symptoms around the same people that are sick. That doesn't mean that little existential threats float around in the air, somehow surviving on services for days and can't be found anywhere. But trust me, bro, they're everywhere. That's all fake and gay. That's all fake and gay. Okay, it isn't real. It's just the way it is. It isn't real. Please, so you got to stop living in fear, because the only reason COVID worked is they convinced people that the thing that keeps them alive was going to kill them. And do you remember that the George Floyd thing happened? I got to show you guys. To me, this was like the craziest spell ever. So George Floyd happened, right? They have all kinds of protests. And one of the most famous pictures that are going to pop right up here. See all these people saying, I can't breathe, right? Notice what you can't breathe because you're wearing a mask. They literally had thousands of people running around saying, I can't breathe while wearing masks. It was a humiliation ritual. It was 100% a psyop. 100% a psyop. All of it was a psyop. I'm assuming a lot of people already know that, but you know.
Appears to be gain of function.
Brother, they had thousands of people running around chanting, I can't breathe while wearing a mask unironically.
Because we've studied the Hantavirus. It's what killed Gene Hackman's wife, because she went untreated and died in the bed because he had Alzheimer's, and then he wandered around for a week and fell over with a heart attack. What a great guy. Love that guy. But the point is, I mean, it can kill you. You know, it kills 5, 6, 7 people a year in the United States, usually an Indian reservation.
This is exactly what you can't really rely on him as a source for. So, whatever. Go sub on Kick. Go follow on Kick. Everyone, please follow on Kick. We should have way more than like 1,000 people. Can you please go follow on Kick? Kick's where we're going to go, so we're not going to be censored. So we're going to cover everything on Kick, right? Like, I am traveling. I'm going to try to still pop off a stream tomorrow. It'll be like an on-the-road stream. Sorry we had a couple days off. It wasn't planned, but we're going to stream consistently. I'm going to be out of town to see the girls, right? So I won't stream Saturday night. Sunday night would be rough. It would be really late. We'll figure it out, but try to stream tomorrow. But the point is that Kick is where we can reliably continue to talk about this if it continues to go down this road, right? Kick is the move. So we'll have like sub-only videos up. We'll have sub-only chats. Gifted subs there help a ton. Actual individual subs absolutely help a ton, so that when I go apply for partnership, I'll actually meet all the metrics. I need to average a certain amount of viewers, I have to have a certain amount of subs, all that. So if you want to support the channel, that's the place to do it. If you want to be able to keep up with the stream, go there. You can go to what'sitgetsit.com and you can go to the live tab, and Kick is always the stream that's showing, so you can watch it from there. If you sign up for a membership through what'sitgetsit.com, there's a members only tab. You can click over from Kick Chat to What's It Gets It, right? So Kick is the move, because at least we should be able to cover all of this uncensored. And so it'll quickly just become like X, Rumble, Kick. I mean, it is what it is. Maybe they're not, but they have such a cover story there where it's like it's about people dying, so you should know by now you can't rely on JTube.
The whole world now is watching this story. And our next guest nearly died from hantavirus. She said if she had just waited 1 hour longer before going to the ER, she wouldn't be here today talking to us. It started as flu.
I mean, this is like, it's just triggering PTSD. And what's so sad is like children have PTSD. And this is why I was so opposed to my children being anywhere close to a leftist Democrat state, because it's like this traumatizes children to have masks everywhere. And, especially in households where like this is looping in the background, this is just pisses me off, Hey, thank you for subbing on Kick. S. Fleischer, maybe butchered that, but welcome. So it's the same thing though. The point is that you remember what actually happened with COVID? They had everyone come in with flu-like symptoms, and then people were just panicking. And so if they just took this test, which was complete BS, obviously they amped the cycles up to an insane amount. They could have found anything that they wanted, and they could all kinds of false positives. They were saying, oh, you're going to look and feel healthy, but you're really sick. People would then go to preemptively get ahead of COVID so it wouldn't get bad. That's what they were thinking or told, right? They then went there and they had this new protocol set up where they would put you on remdesivir, which was already known to have like a 60% kidney failure, right? Which would then cause fluid buildup in the lungs, right? Obviously, when you have the flu, if anyone dies from the flu, they don't die from the flu, right? They die from the fluid buildup in the lungs, pneumonia. That's what that is. So people would get fluid buildup in the lungs because they were given remdesivir, which causes the kidneys to shut down and cause fluid buildup in the lungs. They would then put them on a ventilator, which literally puts pressure down on their lungs while their lungs were filling up with fluid, and they would suffocate and die. So the protocol was set up so that people would die. And they were saying, look at all these people dying from COVID. Oh, the ICUs are full. Of course they're full, because you got people thinking that this is something that it's not with fake tests. They come in there, then they give them remdesivir, their kidneys shut down. They start to get really sick. There's fluid buildup in their lungs. You have them laying down. Everyone knows if you have pneumonia, the number one thing you can't do is just lay there. You got to get up, start moving around, work out the congestion. The way that you die is just sit there and then slowly drown. They get them on remdesivir, have their kidneys shut down, build up in the lungs, lay them on a bed, tell them to stay there, put a ventilator on them, put pressure down on their lungs while their lungs are building up with fluid, and then they would die. It was the most evil, insane thing ever. RIP Rob Skiba, exactly. And so they already have that whole protocol, right? And so it's like, oh, respiratory illness. Oh, you need to go to the ICU. It's like, bro, give me a break. Give me a break. And then you got them just overtly incentivized monetarily, right? Financially, like the states were just giving tons and tons of money based on how many ventilators they had. So, of course, if they're going to run another pandemic, it's going to be respiratory illness, of course, because they already have that ironed out. They have the whole protocol ready. And they may change remdesivir. They may do something different. All they need to do is cause you to have fluid buildup in the lungs. That's it. It's the most sinister, evil thing imaginable.
Symptoms, it turned critical, and within hours, Kristen Musson was placed on life support, eventually placed in a medically induced coma for 4 days, and spent even longer in the ICU. And Kristen Musson is out front now. And Kristen, I am grateful to your time and so grateful to hear that story.
RIP, what's it? That just to clarify here too, like when I said I was sick, it had nothing to do with anything like that. I was just like kind of sick to my stomach. Because of what I consumed, right? It wasn't any of this nonsense. So I will say though, I have set up a goal on my Ko-fi. It's also on my website. It's like more urgent now than ever that I like quickly move to be with my daughters. So anybody want to, feel led to help a brother out with that situation, it is greatly needed.
You now. What a horrific ordeal. I mean, can we just talk about what happened here?
Moved to where?
North
North Carolina.
Sick, you were a new mom. You were healthy. You had a 5-month little baby girl.
Would you rather we sub here or YouTube? Everything on Kick. Kick over YouTube in all situations.
What happened, and when did you realize something was
And
horrible?
let me just clear, like, Kick is way better, right? Because it doesn't censor free speech and it doesn't have ads. So it's like, seems like a no-brainer, right?
Wrong.
Well, you know, I had that 1 week where I was sick with flu-like symptoms, and it just wasn't getting any better. And
I'm not going to make people watch this. This is like PTSD. It's like, you know, I think one of the worst things you can do is they want you to go tune into the news where they have the little ticker of the deaths, you know, and then they come out and say, oh, well, the COVID deaths, I mean, they're kind of misleading because someone could die from anything. And if they tested positive for our BS test that we know has false positives and we just cycle 1,000 times till we get what we want and amplify their results and just cook the books, then we just classified it as a COVID death anyway. So you could literally be riding a motorcycle and get hit by an 18-wheeler and get decapitated and then get brought into the hospital. And then they swab whatever they can. And then they're going to say, oh, look, that's a COVID death. And they came out and admitted that. So then you go in there, you see these little tickers. It's like, dude, find a channel like this if this starts popping off and keep up with stuff there. Don't be watching the freaking news, man. I just want to show you guys there's respiratory illness, allegedly.
Go. So you guys, this Dutch cruise ship has a virus outbreak, a virus called Hantavirus. And as always, I have questions because I think I've seen this movie before. Here's the rundown. A few people have died from the Hantavirus on this cruise ship, including a 70-year-old Dutch man who died on April 11th. Then his wife dies.
Hey, True Army, thank you for the gifted sub.
Few days later in a South African airport when she collapsed, which even now they sent in a hazmat team to evacuate the ship. But I want everybody to be very aware of what's happening because there's some very eerie parallels. Now, what is the hantavirus, you ask? It is a collection of viruses carried by rodents through their feces that is deadly to humans. Now, listen up. This part is important. They also state that it causes a severe respiratory illness that has a fatality rate up to 50%. Respiratory illness, huh? You guys remember that one time where that respiratory illness wife and husband caught it to kick everything off? It's just a coincidence, right? You mean to tell me another famous couple just last year was involved with the same virus, Hantavirus, where Gene Hackman's wife died of the same virus? So the first guy who died on the ship with the Hantavirus died on April 11th. That's the same date the Titanic set sail at the point of no return. Now, the World Health Organization is stepping up to respond to the Hantavirus because the wife of the guy who
okay, what does that mean?
Died, she dies in a South African airport, but before she took a flight to Johannesburg with 82 other people. Wait, hold up. You mean the same World Health Organization that's mentioned in the Epstein files for preparing for a pandemic states here to an email to Epstein saying, please find a draft agenda for the meeting on preparing for a pandemic as requested. Let's discuss next steps. For example, how to officially involve the WHO and the International Committee of the Red Cross. Best regards, I hope we can pull this off. What? Now, yes, they could be on one hand talking about COVID, but I always say COVID was a precursor to something bigger. Now, the WHO urges all those passengers on that flight with the wife who died in South Africa on April 25th to contact them immediately concerning the hantavirus. And if that's not weird enough, back in 2024, Moderna and a Korean university co-developed a hantavirus vaccine. How convenient. States here that they had a full-scale collaboration with the vaccine center at the Korean University College of Medicine to develop an mRNA-based hantavirus vaccine.
So they're already working on it. They're already working on the vaccine. They already have it ready. So
interesting timing.
Alien UFO disclosure tomorrow. I know. Yeah, we're about to cover that too. It's like they're hitting us with everything.
For travel in general, Spirit Airlines went out of business. You have Delta canceling food and drink service.
What's it goes to Antarctica and does 0 tests. Dude, we literally could bring one bag. What test am I supposed to do there? Like everything would have confirmed flat, bro. Like it was it was a giant sheet of ice. You could see insanely far. It was super clear, and you saw mountains from unimaginably far, and you couldn't leave where they put you. So what test was I supposed to do? Maybe you can enlighten me what I was supposed to do there, since we weren't allowed to leave. So.
Thousands of flights. It's almost like they want us to just stay put. I did a bigger breakdown.
That's not a coincidence. That Delta shuts down, the drinks and the food, that Spirit shuts down. There was just a video a couple days ago of like the San Diego airport completely dead and empty. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. San Diego is an international airport, completely dead and empty. So they're trying to deter people from traveling. They already started doing this with the whole like, oh, TSA is not being hired because the government shut down, etc. They start floating the idea of privatizing the airports, which I said, of course, that would be the trap. They'll privatize it. And how did they enforce everything during COVID? Private companies, right? It wasn't the government that was telling you you couldn't go into the store. It was private companies that were saying you had to wear a mask. It was private companies that were, trying to scan your wrist and forehead when you came in. Probably a coincidence that they were scanning your wrist and forehead as you went in places.
On YouTube, so make sure you guys go check that out and let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
Dude, the real tea is the World Cup coming here, bro. It's just so obvious. I mean, bro.
gündemden göremiyoruz ama
All right, we ain't about to listen to that. Brother, man. All right. I got you guys. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I got you. Here we go. Don't worry. In case you were thinking this might be COVID 2.0, don't worry, okay? The World Health Organization has confirmed it's not.
This is a very different virus.
Very different.
This is not coronavirus.
Yeah, which doesn't exist.
This is a very different
No, it's
virus.
not. It doesn't exist.
We know this
You
virus.
don't know it doesn't exist.
Hantaviruses have been around for quite a
That's
while.
literally not true.
There's a lot of detail that we know. I'm going to ask Anais to come in and say this, but I want to be unequivocal here. This is not SARS-CoV-2.
Of course it's not.
This is not the start of a COVID pandemic. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship. There's a confined area. We have 5 confirmed cases so far. We completely understand.
This is
why-
exactly what they did with COVID. Do not worry. There's nothing going on. Then it was like, okay, it's no big deal. 2 weeks, we're going to stop the spread, right? I mean, they can't tell you panic from the beginning. Obviously, they treat people like cattle. I'm not even saying that this is going to be something. It may be a nothing burger, because this may just be getting everyone prepared. They may be seeing, okay, how much are people going to look into stuff, whatever.
Why these questions are coming, and we are trying to provide all of the information that we can. That's why we're having a press conference here to give accurate information, and we're grateful for all of those out there who are asking these types of questions. But this is not the same situation we were in 6 years ago. It doesn't spread the same way like coronaviruses do. It's very different. It's that close, intimate contact that we've seen. And most hantaviruses don't transmit between people at all.
Yeah, but all they got to do is come on the news tomorrow and say, turns out this is a new strain that does spread from humans and it's airborne.
Most hantaviruses are transmitted from rodents or their feces or their saliva in their droppings to people. And only this one particular virus, the Andes virus, which has been identified here, we've seen some human-to-human transmission. And again, I want to reiterate, the actions that are being taken on board are precautionary to prevent any onward spread. And so there's a lot that is being done right now to be able to try to minimize the risk even further. But I do want Anais to come in and provide a little bit. No? Okay. Oh, okay.
Shut up. All right, so we'll just do it like this. You guys see that? Yeah. All right. The World Cup coming to the United States. What a coincidence. You got it all throughout Mexico and then all along the East Coast. Miami, Atlanta, Philly, New York, Boston, Toronto. Then you got Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Kansas City, Dallas, Houston, So those are the United States cities where the World Cup is going to be, with a whole bunch of Europeans traveling over here. It's, I mean, bro, really? June 11th. June 11th. June 11th sounds pretty exciting.
Really mean in context of the long incubation period. And we have a question from one of our viewers. They ask, it's said that it can take 8 weeks to become symptomatic. The passengers shouldn't be allowed into the public until they're completely cleared. You know, what do you, is that a fair way to look at this? I mean, how long do you think people should be quarantined who are either on that ship or in contact with someone who is there?
Yeah, I mean, this is the big challenge with this virus, the long incubation period. And now we have people scattered really around the globe that are being properly tracked, isolated, quarantined, and get it under control. But what they did was they quarantined and isolated people for 40 days because of the long incubation period. So unfortunately, this is a key factor in us trying to figure out, how do we keep people safe? How do we prevent further spread? I mean, what we're all tracking right now is that potential secondary spread. And then how do we minimize those who are infected from infecting others?
And what a quarantine might really mean in context of the long incubation period. And we have a question from one of our viewers. They ask.
All right, let's listen to this goober. Why would the reporter not have a mic? I don't get it. Why did this girl just wobbled on over there and cut off all my hair?
Yes, I have. Well, I think you're going to be told everything, and you already have. It's very much, we hope, under control. It was the ship, and I think we're going to make a full report about it tomorrow. We have a lot of people, a lot of great people studying it. It should be fine.
Hey, who was the president during the first pandemic? Who was the president whenever you lost all your rights and we were put into lockdown again? Does anyone remember? Who was in charge of Operation Warp Speed? Who bragged about the vaccine for years when 95% of the people that supported him thought it was ridiculous? Was that this guy? I think it was this guy.
We hope. I hope not. I mean,
I just got to say, okay.
You may have
Trump's in office, rolls out 5G, everyone gets locked down. They put 5G out everywhere. Everyone gets locked down when Trump's president. Operation Warp Speed rushed out a vaccine. Brags about it for years. Okay. Biden comes in. They blame all of the economic failure on Biden when clearly Trump did it all because of the pandemic, where it was the greatest transfer of wealth ever. It just printed money like crazy. Okay. Then, and do you guys remember they started handing out money to everybody during the pandemic? So then you got him back in office, just signed a 6G bill. Now you got this talk of pandemic going on. Whether this manifests as anything or not, what it's done is get everyone to start talking about pandemic, lockdowns, viruses, freaking out again.
Heard about the cruise ship that's been stranded for days near Cape Verde. They had a rare virus outbreak that left 3 people dead and a few more sick. And it's allegedly due to a thing called the Hantavirus, which is, listen to this, an airborne virus that comes from rodents' droppings, urine, or saliva, and that also transmits from human to human. What was the COVID story again? It came from a bat and a penguin.
It's also so faking gay, bro. So faking gay. Pocket 79, shout out to for the 3 gifted subs, brother. Thank you so much. Servant Watcher, thank you for subbing on Kick. True Armory, thank you for the gifted sub. I think we called you out earlier. Seth Fleischer, thanks for subbing. Shout out to the legends that are subbing on Kick.
And some wet market. And do you remember in January?
And if you're active in the chat, when people gift subs, it gifts to the most recently active people.
2020, the people stranded on the Italian ship. A lot of similarities. But wait, in this one, there's a plot twist. One woman left the ship and collapsed at the airport in Johannesburg, probably infecting other people, just like in the movie Contagion. Now, the fake news media is sharing this blogger's video on purpose, trying to spread fear amongst us.
All we want right now is to feel safe.
You can act like a man. What's wrong with you?
These fear campaigns usually starts with the WHO saying there's nothing to worry about, but we're monitoring the situation in case people fall for it. And that's when they crank the story, the fear meter, and the mandates. So let's do ourselves a favor and keep that story right where it belongs.
Yeah. Okay, here's the issue. This is obviously what they're going to say. Obviously what they're going to say right here.
Dr. Frieden, can you just explain how this particular strain of the hantavirus, the Andes strain, is spread? And yeah, I mean, how is it spread? How contagious is it actually?
We're learning more about this virus all the time. The bottom line here is that hollowing out the CDC and walking away from the World Health Organization makes Americans less safe. This is one of a large number of microbes that can change unpredictably. What we're seeing here, hantavirus, is actually a very wide range of viruses, 50 different types of virus. Even within those types, there are subtypes. And it's one of the viruses that changes relatively quickly. It can mix and match different strains of the virus. So what you really worry about is a virus that has a high case fatality rate, it kills people, and it spreads easily. What we're seeing so far is that it has a high case fatality rate in the other outbreaks, but so far it seems like spread requires fairly close contact.
And I think it's like direct contact with bodily fluids or something like that. So if you're sleeping around with people that took the jab, you might be in trouble. So I think you guys get it. I mean, we'll watch one more thing of the news just to give you the official story.
Good evening, I'm Bill Malugin, and this is your Fox News report. At least 5 Americans from the hantavirus-infected cruise ship are back home and are now being monitored for the virus. 3 people have died and even more are sick due to the outbreak. Health officials are racing to find anyone who might have come in contact with those people on board. They suspect it may have spread between passengers, but say public risk is still low. The U.S. launching strikes on 2 Iranian port cities and a naval checkpoint today, but adding this does not break the ceasefire. Washington is still waiting for Iran's response to a peace proposal, while the regime continues to seek full control over the Strait of Hormuz. The UN reports Iran's blockade is trapping about 1,500 ships in the Persian Gulf. The man accused of throwing Molotov cocktails during a rally for Israeli hostages pleads guilty to more than 100 charges, including murder. Mohammed Soleiman is sentenced to life without parole.
Okay. So let's just go ahead and watch your boy Trump here just be a complete psychopath. Hey, super generous super chat. DJ Curious, thank you so much, brother. Great work. What's it? So happy you've been back and sharing your perspective on everything with us. Hope this helps a little, guys. Let's help him out. Hey, thank you so much. It obviously helps my brother. Show him some love, by the way. Go sub to his channel. They got a dope show. Thank you, man. I appreciate the love. While we're at it, pre-drag Bieber. Pre-drag Bieber. Thank you for the CHF 20. Don't know what that is, but I appreciate it. And go show DJ Curious some love on YouTube. Go sub. Thank you again, man. Yeah, I couple unexpected situations this week, but we'll be streaming pretty much every weekday at least. And you know what's so crazy, man, is like I feel like we're kind of desensitized to stuff now, where it's like it's still the meme. It's still the meme with the stick figure. Let me see if I can find it. Like, this is still how people feel. It doesn't pop up, but you know the little the stick figure that's got the stick and he's poking the Illuminati pyramid and he's like, do the alien invasion. And it's labeled whatever the current psyop is. All right, so here's Trump just talking about wiping the country off the map. Totally normal.
Strikes. Is the ceasefire with Iran still on?
Yeah, it is. It's they trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran. And they better sign their agreement fast.
Yes. Could you give us an update on what is the latest in those talks?
No, the talks are going very well, but they have to understand if it doesn't get signed, they're going to have a lot of pain. They're going to have a lot of pain. They want to sign it. I will tell you. They want to sign it a lot more than I do.
What was the president after these strikes? Is the ceasefire with Iran still on?
Yeah, it is. It's
Okay. So there's a couple other videos about Hantavirus. I mean, like all the 33s immediately there are kind of sus. Let's be real, but let's see what's going on here because it's just such a clown world. So
I think that Grush, when I had talked to him on whether these were specifically extraterrestrials or alien in origin, he said interdimensional. He refused to use certain terms. And I think that's incredibly important because I think that that's really the question we're all wanting to know, right? And so I'm actually going to have a sit-down conversation with him and ask him to come back and talk to us directly because it seems that we are getting more information from the source than going into a skiff and then not being able to tell you guys what we're talking
Is this
about.
stuff that we just as humans might not be able to understand if it's interdimensional?
I think that we can understand it. I think that it's just, it's an approach, right? I mean, like, remember, we just now for the first time in history really had Congress have whistleblowers come forward credible that we're telling the entire world that there is something other than human life forms. Grush said that those were interdimensional beings. He refused to use extraterrestrial and alien. I think that's important.
she just tweeted, tomorrow will be good. Now here's the deal. We're actually going to put a pause on this. A couple more things I need to show you about this hantavirus nonsense. Okay, so the whole lab theory, you know, it was like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory that it broke out in a lab in China and then people were censored for it. And then they were vindicated with internal documents that show that there was a lab leak, right? And so where they claimed that there was a food market with a bat that supposedly started the coronavirus, come to find out that there was actually a lab that had a leak that was very close to that in China. Ooh, that was all fake and gay. Okay, viruses are not real. Viruses are not real. That's correct. Everyone thought there was something that was spreading that wasn't real. It isn't real. That's just the way that this works. It isn't real. Viruses are not real. Okay, so any story talking about that is fake, but they're going to go ahead and give you another narrative, and here it is, right? They're seeding another narrative of how this is actually going to get out. They're going to claim that it's being weaponized, and that's what Alex Jones is talking about. So it's like the truth or trap.
Now, I want to stress that there have been no public health incidents linked to these materials. So we have no evidence so far of any event occurring as a result of the loss or the destruction of these materials. The department is taking all necessary steps to ensure that it does have the appropriate regulatory matters in place. It is liaising with the federal record-keeping bodies and the federal accreditation bodies, as well as with our own Department of Agriculture. It has...
Okay. They say that vial, like, you know, hundreds of vials were missing. Okay.
Last pandemic.
This just happened, I think. Oh, this is last year. The
next one could be far more severe. I mean, this one, it killed millions. It was awful. We got the vaccine. You know, actually, President Trump's leadership was a factor in getting that out quickly. And so when I spoke to him, I said, okay, here's some other medical innovations, including a thing called an HIV cure that could be accelerated. So, you know, we should be more prepared both for a pandemic. I'd say that's still number one. You know, you can worry about nuclear war. You can worry about AI.
This
There's
sounds like fun.
plenty to worry about. But
do you
overall,
sleep
I'm
at
an
all?
optimist.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's up to the government to think ahead on behalf of the citizens.
Yes.
So, pandemic, there's a lot that we should be doing that hopefully we'll get our act together before the next one comes. Overall, the innovation in health, both in the developing countries, the rich world,
Shut up, dude. Okay. Here we go. This is a decent show and very simple question, right? They're saying like, oh, it doesn't spread from human to human. Don't even worry about it. This is what they did with COVID. They told you not to worry about it. Told you not to worry about it. But then what they did was just laugh in your face and tell you that it has a 99% survivability rate. And then they told you to freak out about it anyway. And they took away your rights anyway. And people complied anyway. And people got a vaccine anyway. Okay. So they're telling you, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, it's no big deal. Because that's how they would do this. They would make sure everyone's familiar with the story, right? And they would seed it. So then it would be more believable when everyone didn't overreact, right? And then the people were left off the ship. Now they went ahead and they're probably just, running logistics lifetime. They have crazy AI surveillance data centers at this point. They're running public sentiment. That's why X gives you free speech so they can see what everyone's actually thinking. Proof of this is that the White House literally comes out and placates to whatever's viral on X every other day, right? I mean, that's just how it works. So they're just running, logistics on the public sentiment. This is going to be a much more sophisticated pandemic. If this is going to be a pandemic, I've been saying the entire time, there is a 0% chance that they will not roll out something like COVID again. It would be insane not to, right? If you're a psychopath that wants to roll over people, why would you ever get that big of a power grab and then just give it back? Can someone explain that? Daniel Sam 41, what a legend. Thank you for the 10 subs. Hey, show my boy some love in the kick chat. If you're active in the kick chat, you would have got a gifted sub right there. Daniel Sam 41, I'm pretty sure you're the leader back-to-back weeks, bro. So we're going to throw you on the Wizard Gets It website and show you some love. If you have Telegram, reach out to me. If I can verify it's you, we're going to hook you up with something. Whoever the top gifter is, we got to come up with something. So thank you, man. So they're running the logistics, right? So think about what they've done right now. They're like, oh, this broke out on a cruise ship that's traveling around all these different places. It's dormant before the symptoms show up for a while. They have people coming on and off the ship. They let people leave. Someone then went to the airport and then collapsed in the airport, that ended up dying. So they already could have spread it to everyone on the plane, everyone in the airport, everyone in the TSA line, blah, 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 blah. How could you track that down? You never could. So they already told you that if they end up saying, oh, turns out that this was a new strain that was developed that is actually contagious person to person. Now they're already saying, oh, it is contagious person to person. It just requires close contact, basically like direct contact with bodily fluids, which is by the way what they would say about Marburg, right? Which is why I was telling you that was crazy in the terms of an idea of like a zombie, because what does a zombie do? They bite you, right? And there's a whole rabbit hole with that, right? When you have the gene deletion, that was one of the adverse effects of the vaccine, and then that gene deletion is something that you're only born with, which is obviously just an admission that it was a manipulation of the genetic sequencing, right? You're only born with that gene deletion, yet they were saying it was an adverse effect that was discovered and observed in the trials of the COVID vaccines. With me, okay, which is an admission of genetic manipulation and specifically deletion. And then the symptoms were basically being super volatile and aggressive and biting, a propensity to bite. Okay. So that's why I was like, dude, this is pretty crazy, because if they're able to activate certain components within the vaccine with nanoparticles, I mean, dude, if you start making people crazy with a propensity to bite, and then they were to say, supposedly have something like Marburg, right? You can just now change that out with hantavirus, quote unquote. It doesn't matter. They're saying it's direct contact with bodily fluids, high mortality rate. Now, Marburg is crazy because it's like all the color in your face goes away. Your eyes look dead. Like this is like the way that it was actually described. People will start to get crazy, and then their skin starts peeling off. Literally, they start bleeding from all their orifices. So someone who loses all the color in their face, their eyes go dead, they're freaking out, erratic with the propensity to bite, while they're bleeding from all their orifices and their skin starts to like fall off. That's a zombie, bro. I mean, for intents and purposes, that's a zombie, right? So that's why when you got into like I want to say it's called opto therapy or something like that. I'll look it up in a second. But it's where, you know, you can use gene therapy to put in like a photosensitive chemical from algae, and they were able to like make the mice go crazy and attack people. So we put all that together in the zombie strain. We're like, dude, none of this is science fiction, right? It's a well-known thing that nanoparticles can be remotely activated by introducing them to a certain frequency, you know, of radio frequency, right? So whenever you introduce them to electromagnetic frequency at a certain frequency for a certain duration of time, it then causes the nanoparticles, right, to interact, swell up, become semi-permeable, release whatever's in it. Well known and established, proven to work. They were looking into it for remote drug delivery systems. Okay, now we know that all the vaccines had nanoparticles in them that they did not have to declassify. It later comes out that all the nanoparticles for all the vaccines were the same and came from the same source in China. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you did Pfizer or you did Johnson and Johnson. They all use the same nanoparticles, right? Which is super sus. Because if you look at it from this perspective, that's all they care about. The rest of it doesn't matter. Just like salad dress or, you know, window dressing or whatever. It's like you have the main ingredient, the nanoparticle, and they didn't tell you what it was. They never told you what it was. Never told you what it was. Okay, so all of that's super sus. So when you just whatever, take Marburg out, it's a little bit less zombie-like. Throw this in there. It doesn't matter. That's direct contact with bodily fluids. You can, of course, have toxins, and you can transfer them with bodily fluids. Like if someone has some types of toxins, and then they have an open wound, you have an open wound, and you're just going to shove that into your open wound. Like the toxins are going to go into your body and then facilitate through your blood system. I mean, that isn't crazy. That's just nothing to do with viruses, right? Okay. Okay, sorry, I was reading the chat. All right. So what's crazy about this is what they've now done is say, okay, there's a cruise ship. It's going all over the place, starting in Europe, right? Okay, so you got it going all over the place, all throughout Europe. You got like 180 passengers from all over the world. You got people that have already come off and left because the people that got the symptoms are people that contracted the quote unquote hantavirus. They didn't show the symptoms for a while, so no one knew. So people left. This lady left. Then they start breaking out. So they quarantine the ship, but it's too late. Some people have already got off and left. And then you had like 3 people die already real quick. 3 of the 8 cases, people die. And it's like it takes a while for it to really kick in. And then it's really quick, just like what they said Marburg is, right? And okay. And I will say, dude, like, does it surprise you that if you're like taking some crazy animals, like bats are crazy, like mice and rats are gross, right? Like if you're taking like their feces and somehow putting it into your body, like, does it surprise you that you might get really sick and die? Like that doesn't surprise me. And I think that the way that they handle these illnesses based on the misinterpretations of what they are, right, and the reified models is really what expedites death that is probably typically avoidable. It seems to be the case with everything, even cancer, right? I mean, you know, anti-parasitic medicines are killing cancer left and right. You know, you think they didn't know about that? Of course they did. You know, most people still don't know about it. If you say that to most people and say you could use dewormer to get rid of your cancer, they're going to think you're crazy. And it's just verified fact at this point. Okay, so to stick on the point here, here's the story, and it's very see-through, right? You have this story of quarantine. It's like out of a movie, right? It's perfect. It's in a cruise ship. It's going everywhere. Now everyone's looking at one place, and everyone's quarantined in one place, and everyone's calling to not let these people out. Then other people are like, wait, these people have freedom. You can't just trap them there, right? And then they're like, they have the public argument. So it doesn't matter which way they go. It's like the side argue that they didn't let them out. The side argue that they did let them out. Doesn't matter. Because they already let one person get off, supposedly, and then collapse in an airport, supposedly, you know. And by the way, that could have just really happened, right? I mean, they could have just made sure that person was sick. So now you're like, wait, so she stood in line to get on a plane, got on a plane, got off the plane in an airport, and then fainted, and then got taken to a hospital, right? Okay, so there's all these different points of contact already. Now, this is what's crazy. It's like, well, where did all those people go? Oh, they're going to Europe. Okay, well, now we have all these people from Europe coming over to the United States for the World Cup in like almost every major city in June, right? So you have this like unavoidable thing. What's this kick handle? Witsit. W-I-T-S-I-T, kick.com/Witsit. Oh, yeah, we're going to finish the stream on Kicks exclusively. Maybe in 10 minutes, we're going to swap over there. So you guys already see how they've broken down what's going to happen with this whole virus, right? I mean, if they want to pull the trigger, they've already set it up. That's all I'm saying. So they're like, oh, well, it's not going to transmit between people, right? It's like, okay, and then it is transmitting between people. This is just what they did with COVID. Do you remember this? They just gaslit you every single day for like a year straight. That's what they're going to do. They just gaslight you because they could just say, oh, we just discovered something new. Oh, turns out it's this. Turns out that it's adapting, you know, it's mutating. Because if you make up a fictional character, Frankenstein, then you can come make up whatever Frankenstein does or turns into or can do, right? Like that's what viruses are. Of course you can make up what it does. So, okay. Now they're saying you have to be in like direct contact. Like basically you have to be like open wounds. You got to be like, you know, having sex with somebody. You got to exchange saliva, something like that, right? Now, I would expect that they're going to change that. They're going to somehow change it. They're going to say it is transmittable from people to people, and they kind of already are. They're going to say something about it being airborne. They're going to have to figure something out like that, in my opinion. That's what they're going to do. Now, but the official story right now is there's nothing to worry about. People are blowing this out of proportion. Oh, I can't imagine why people are, you know, freaking out because you just, you know, the mass psychosis, trauma-based mind control of the PTSD that everyone has from COVID would never explain why people are hypersensitive to this, right? And there's obviously just the people like, dude, we're not letting you take our freedoms. And they're like, dude, this is bullshit if this is about to happen again. And then you got the people that are like, oh my God, I need my booster. I have my booster card, you know? So, okay. Simple question. If this is known not to be a problem, and I asked the same question about Marburg, I'm like, yeah, well, why, you know, this doesn't matter because it has a high fatality rate, but people can't catch it, right? You have to have direct contact with bodily fluid. Then, okay, that's never going to cause an entire pandemic around the world. You can't even create that cover story, right? Same with this. Why were Moderna and these big companies focusing on fast tracking a Marburg mRNA vaccine? Why are they focusing on fast tracking and already having made this vaccine? Why would you need to produce an mRNA vaccine and fast track it for an illness that could never realistically turn into a pandemic? Right? Now that question, if this ends up actually becoming a thing and they end up saying, look, we got a vaccine for it, that question I just asked you, it will never be answered. They'll just never answer it. They won't even, I know it sucks to start to have to think about this and remember the way that this was. It's awful, right? I mean, they're just going to gaslight you. They don't have to answer the questions. So anyway, like I'm assuming this is what they're going to talk about here. And I mean, just think about it for yourself. Like their story already doesn't make sense, right? Why would you be investing millions and millions of dollars into fast tracking a vaccine for an illness that you know could ever realistically turn into a pandemic? They say something like 5 to 8 people in the United States die from that a year, right? So.
Because you're supposed to really only get it from rodents. It is not commonly known to be transmissible between humans. What do you think of the idea that it could be transmitting to a flight attendant, possibly to someone who's been, exposed to someone on the cruise ship? That should not happen from what we currently know, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give two answers to that. I'll give you the textbook answer and then this brave new world we're in. The textbook answer is that it's really poorly transmissible human to human. In fact, there's really only one strain that you even concern yourself with. And unfortunately, that's the strain that was apparently on that ship. It's called the Andes virus. It's from South America. The American strains and European strains, really rare to have human-to-human transmission. The other aspect, even with the Andes virus, it's not considered a common transmission route. And really, in order to have it transmitted, you have to have really close contact, like almost like intimate, respiratory secretions, kissing, maybe like close physical caregiving. But it's not something.
Dude, how crazy is it going to be if turns out that this is just embedded in the jab and people running around hooking up with people that took the vax don't even realize that they have something dormant inside them? Because it's like my research, right, was that the true danger of the vaccines was something that was dormant, potentially dormant in the nanoparticles that could be activated with certain frequencies, meaning they could just send out like a national alarm, a national alert, right, trigger with a certain frequency. You're not even going to know that. That's crazy, man. And it was like in the test, it was like 10-second burst, 10-second burst, 10-second burst every minute, spaced by a minute over the course of 3 minutes at that specific frequency. And then it would cause the particle to swell up, swell up, swell up. And then after the third one, boom. And they got it down to a science, right? So it would be everywhere that 5G is present, right? The little 5G towers. Because like, isn't it weird that they shut the world down? They put the 5G towers everywhere, and then they were in close proximity. So like they didn't even have as long of range as the previous technology. Like, has anyone noticed some major upgrade to 5G when it comes to the efficacy of internet? No, no one has. The answer is no, right? But there's towers everywhere. And you have to have them everywhere because they don't have as long of a range. So can we now think of reasons why maybe it would make sense that they would want those everywhere? So that's kind of the zombie stream in a nutshell. And it's all backed up by everything. And we didn't really get into the specifics of the gene therapy and stuff. Maybe we'll do that in a little bit. Okay, because we're going to watch this, but then we're going to go back and watch X-Files, and there's a little bit longer of a video, and it's going to tie right into the aliens. You can't even make it up. The world is just a stage.
Down the street and get from somebody. So I don't think we should go there.
Go over to Kick if you want to finish the stream, kick.com/what's-it. We're going to swap over in a second.
But, you know, in your intro, I listened to tell you, you know, there's, you know, what you learn as a doctor is you learn to be expert at seeing patterns. And, you know, the patterns of anomalies make me uneasy here. Like, particularly, and I don't know that you mentioned this, but like, why would a pharmaceutical company come up with a vaccine for a virus that's not transmissible between humans to humans? And they, you know, I can't remember which company did that, but they did that in that last year or two. And that really kind of bothers me, because there's only one rationale for developing a vaccine for a virus that cannot be really to any appreciable extent transmissible between humans. And that's if you're preparing for a doomsday scenario where somehow a highly transmissible strain emerges. And so remember, coronavirus used to be a cold, you know, and then we saw one that became airborne and highly transmissible, one of the most highly transmissible viruses we've seen. And so, you know, I don't want to go dark here, but, you know, there's so much monkey business going around the bioweapons research, and they're doing, you know, by the way, there's no such thing as defensive bioweapons research. Like, anyone who's doing research in bioweapons, there's no difference between offensive and defensive. So anytime they're like monkey around with these viruses, you got to worry.
Right. So it's Moderna there that
Yes,
is,
Moderna.
and Moderna did in fact have a COVID-19 vaccine. If we're looking at, can we put that back up on the screen, please? 2024 is the date of this, when Moderna stock really was plummeting precipitously, you know, because of the fall off of the COVID-19 vaccine uptake. So yeah, I mean, we're not saying we know why they would do this. We don't, but you make a good point. Why would they need to? For a vaccine that you can only get from animals and has no human transmission. So, okay. You know, Dr. Robert Malone posted this tweet today saying, you know,
you got to be super suspicious of this guy, super pro viruses are real. But shout out to my boy, Humdadum. Humdadum, thank you for the 5 gifted. Much love. Oh, Humdadum, a 10 gifted before that. Uh-oh. I think you might be the leader, brother. Thank you so much for the 10 gifted and the 5 gifted. Humdadum, what a legend. Show him some love. If you're active in the Kick chat, you get the gifted subs. It helps the brother out too. Win-win. Because there will be sub-only chats. Especially if we start having to talk about this topic and they roll out censorship. And by the way, hey, what administration was in charge when they started to roll out censorship last time? Oh, yeah, that was Trump. Wait, what? And the pandemic happened under who? And the vaccine came out fast-tracked under who? And the list goes on and on. And 5G came out under who? And the anti-Semitism definition came out under who? Okay. So Humdadum, thank you for the 10. Daniel Sam 41, thank you for the 10. And Humdadum, thank you for the 5. Much love. Legends. I'll keep checking up on it. Thank you for the gifted. Thank you for the gifted. All right. Let's finish this right here. We got another one that's going to trip you out. And then we're going to swap over to Kick for maybe the last hour or so.
Your odds of being struck by lightning.
And you want to catch the end of the stream, trust me, because we're about to transition right into the aliens, and it is not unrelated, turns out.
Are 7 times greater than getting hantavirus. So it should not be a big concern for the vast majority of Americans. How do you feel about the odds? I mean, that's not really telling us, you know.
Bro, my boy Daniel with another 5. Daniel Sam 41. Thank you for the 5. Gifted, brother. Much love. What a legend. Show him some love. You guys are active in the kick. I think that's how it works, right? Can you guys confirm that in the kick chat? That like if you're like the kick gifted subs, it just distributes it based on the last however many people were talking in the chat. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you for the support, brother.
The pathology, but it's just sort of the odds. What do you think?
The odds are
and obviously, like following me on Kick is a big help as well. So if we can get a bunch of the people from YouTube, if you're watching this on the playback, right? Because I know this is a late stream. If you're watching this on the playback, dude, just go set up Kick real fast and follow a brother. That would help me significantly.
I mean, again, a traditionally textbook answer, right? You'd only get it like the classic scenario is like you get it from aerosolized like rat or mouse feces or urine, and so the classic transmission is like when you go to sweep out or dust out like an old shed or barn or something where rats have infiltrated and their droppings are there, and so it creates a little dust and you could inhale it. But like Robert said, it's really rare and you shouldn't be concerned about it, except for the question mark that I keep bringing up. Again, I don't want to falsely fear monger because that's also part of the tactics, right? I mean, I hate going back into COVID, but we know all of that was a catastrophe and it was man-made, and we saw how
it wasn't. It's fake. It was literally fake. Like literally, it didn't exist. So can you stop, please? Okay, this is a different movie. Fight the Future, 1998 movie. Let's see what it is here. I haven't seen this.
Somebody knows I'm talking to you.
Not according to the men in blue.
See this crap? Somebody knows I'm talking to you.
Not according to the men in blue.
Oh, what is it, this kiddie porn again? Sexual battery of a patient.
They want to discredit you for what?
Because I'm a dangerous man, because I know too much about the truth.
Now that end of the world apocalyptic garbage, you right?
You know my work? I was right about Dallas, wasn't I?
How are you right?
Are you familiar with the hantavirus, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the hantavirus. Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is? FEMA allows the...
We're moving over to Kick. Moving over to Kick after this clip. Kick.com/Witsit. Mods and YouTube, you can drop the link. That'll help me out. It's also in the description. Kick.com/Witsit.
House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small...
Possible to turn up the volume? No, unfortunately not. I just got to shift over to OBS and then I probably could have.
Outbreak in suburban Texas.
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the hantavirus.
Well, what was it? What was it?
When we were young men in the military, your father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare, a virus.
What killed those men?
What killed them, I won't even write about. We have no context for what killed those men, or any appreciation of the scale at which it'll be unleashed in the future.
A plague?
A plague to end all plagues, Agent Mulder. A silent weapon for a quiet war. The systematic release of an indiscriminate organism for which the men who will bring it on still have no cure. They've been working on this for 50 years. While the rest of the world have been fighting crooks and commies, these men have been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon.
Negotiating with whom?
I think you know. The timetable has been set. It'll happen on a holiday when people are away from their homes. The president will declare a state of emergency, at which time all government, all federal agencies will come under the power of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, the secret government.
They call me paranoid.
Go back to Dallas, Agent Mulder, and dig. Or we're going to find out along with the rest of the country. When it's too late.
Okay.
We had agreed to cooperate with alien colonists.
Interesting. Kick.com/Witsit. Moving over there in 5 minutes. We'll give you 5 more minutes to move over there after this clip.
We had agreed to cooperate with alien colonists. By a majority vote taken by the group that your father and I work for.
1998.
That came together at the State Department on a project dating back to 1947 to Roswell. The vote changed that, though. It changed everything. We no longer cleave to any government agency. We would now operate privately on our own project. That was your father's objection, that we would ally ourselves with alien colonists.
Toward your own selfish end.
We forestalled an alien invasion.
No, you only managed to postpone it.
We saved billions of lives.
You put those lives on hold so that you alone could survive.
No, Agent Mulder, so you could. It's exactly what your father failed to realize. He railed at us and our plans, even as the process had begun. While the group had agreed to the most painful sacrifices. Sacrifices that no one else would ever be asked to make.
Okay. We may finish that in a second. I don't know if that is a misleading description, but we're going to move over to kick.com so we can keep talking about everything. Can I share links to Andrew Kaufman's movie? Yeah. If it lets you share links, yeah. Kaufman is a legend. Dr. Kaufman's a legend. All right, cool. Thanks for kicking it. If there's some reason that you just refuse to go to Kick, then whatever. You're going to miss out on the alien gravy, which is pretty crazy. They're straight up like about to do it tomorrow. They're going to start to leak it tomorrow is what it looks like. And they had a meeting with all kinds of religious leaders, that are really popular. And they love to say the doctrines that, people like to hear. And so they got major platforms already starting to do the mental gymnastics to integrate, extragalactic, extraterrestrial, whatever. We also got lots of people on the stage, main stage, talking about interdimensional entities, interdimensional, demonic, beings, not calling them extraterrestrial aliens from, far out in the vastness of space or whatever. So I gotta say the alien thing is pretty crazy. Meaning like it looks like that's why it's in the thumbnail. It's not just like some clickbait or something. It's like you guys asked for it. Here we are, 2026. You got Trump talking about wiping Iran off the map on the same day that we're told alien disclosures coming out from Congress the next day, a day after they tell all the major religious leaders that they need to have a meeting with their congregations about the acceptance of aliens. They're not just saying UFOs. They're talking about aliens. They've now confirmed that there is known existence of other beings, and the world didn't even blink, just kept moving past it. Like, okay, what's next? And now we got COVID 2.0 propaganda going everywhere with a story fresh out of a movie as to how it would spread everywhere a couple weeks before you have the World Cup at the United States with everyone coming from Europe right over here. And of course, you got the story of the girl coming off the ship, collapsing in the airport, being from Europe. So, okay, that's just a typical Thursday in 2026. You got aliens, international pandemic 2.0, and talking about nuking a country off the map. So, I mean, pretty crazy. This is what I'm saying. Like, yo, I gotta get to my daughters ASAP. So I won't say too much about that right now, but a few things stand in between me and having that happen. One of the major things is financial situation, right? So, yeah, anybody want to help our brother out, hit your boy up, and we work something out or something. But okay, I'm just saying the world's getting crazy. I got to get to my babies, man. Like they're popping off pretty major things right now. I mean, this is wild. I for one am not about the fear porn though, and I'm not telling you to freak out. And maybe we're chill with the pandemic, right? But like, even if you don't comply, it is extremely annoying. And now that I have babies, it would be so traumatizing for them. They've never had to go around seeing people covering up their face everywhere. It's like, yeah, I need to be there. Okay. Anyway, there's kind of the summary. we're going to cover what's going on with the alien thing over on kick.com/witsit. So thanks for kicking it. Let me just come over here real fast to end the stream. Okay. All right. So kick.com/witsit. You can also go to witsitgetsit.com to support the stream, watch the stream, become a member. Right now we have like an annual deal. If you become a Witsit Gets It member, previously referred to as Miswits. I mean, I'm gonna let everyone, all the members vote if they want to keep the name Miswits, but right now you get like a year for 10 months. So you can sign up there and we'll have a bunch of exclusive content there. Okay. Peace out to YouTube.